Hey, what's up, Speedy's Garage Gang? Before we get to today's video, thought I would show you some of the weather that we've had here. So I know if you live in a place like Alaska or Canada or maybe Colorado, this is probably not a big deal, but in southern middle Tennessee, if it snows like this, it's an event. So it's probably been snowing or at least having winter weather for 3 or 4 days. So we started off with sleet, some ice, about a ½ inch of ice, and then starting yesterday afternoon and all the way through today, you can see it's still snowing now. We've probably got about 6 inches of snow on the ground, and it's still coming down. Now the crazy thing is, around here next week it'll be like 60 degrees, so we're gonna enjoy it while it lasts. Kind of glad we don't deal with this all the time, but it is pretty. Now if you don't care about this kind of thing, you can fast forward to the content that's really meant for today's video, but I did want to share some of this with you guys, kind of show you what it looked like. I took the drone out, flew it around a little bit. It actually did better in the snow than I thought it would. But again, we started off with like a ½ inch of ice on Tuesday, and then about 3 inches of sleet, which is like little ice pellets, and then about 2 inches of snow on top of that. We had about a 24-hour break. It was cloudy. I think the high was like 20 degrees, and then started snowing the next day, and the temperature's been hovering right around 30 today, so it's a really good wet heavy snow, good for snowmen. We let the dogs out. All right, so we got a lot of snow for this area last night. What, 6 inches probably, and the dogs haven't seen it yet. So come on, you ready? He was like, what in the world? That's what he does. Saturn, come on, let's go. Come here. Come on. What is all that? Go get her. Come here. Saturn, come here, you crazy dog. What do you think about all that snow? Huh? But it was pretty funny watching them see it for the first time, and that was pretty cool. So that's what we've been dealing with here. Got Project Sport Runner out. He put in some work. We had to run a couple of errands. I love that truck. It literally can go, feels like it can go anywhere. It had absolutely no trouble in the snow. That's what we're dealing with. It sure is pretty. Now let's get on to today's video. Hey, what's up, Speedy's Garage Gang? Today we are obviously away from the shop. I had an opportunity to rent a Jeep Wrangler for a week. Whenever we travel, we try to rent something that's a vehicle we might be interested in, something we haven't had before, and we're down in Florida, and so we're gonna be on the beach and doing things like that, so it made sense to get kind of a sport utility vehicle, but most of them that you find at the rental places are kind of boring. We did find one place that had some Jeeps, and so we rented a Jeep Wrangler, and this particular one is a Sahara. And I'm not a Jeep expert by any means. I've always kind of liked them and thought they were a cool little off-road vehicle, but as you guys know, I'm more into the Toyotas for off-road. I've got the Toyota 4Runner, which I love, so I'm kind of going to compare this to the 4Runner that I've had. The 4Runner's 20 years old, so obviously this Jeep has a much upgraded interior with a lot newer technology. But one of the things I'm having to yell at you guys, this has got a hardtop. Be quiet for a minute. I'm assuming you can hear all of that noise. So we're on the highway, about 80 miles an hour, and it is noisy. Like I'm having to yell to talk to you. Now, that's a side effect of something cool, is that in about 3 minutes, maybe less than that, I can have the top off of this thing, and then you're open air, which is kind of nice. We did take the top off and ride around a little bit at the beach. The issue we had there is the sun's now beating you up. So I don't know if they make an accessory or an option where you can have a little bikini top that you could somehow have in a compartment and slide over and latch, so when you want some shade, you can get that. We rode around and the sun's pretty strong down here in Florida, so it felt a little bit much for us, but the top was already off, so we just left it. We did have the AC on. It was about 90 degrees, and we're riding on the beach, nice cool beach breeze, which was awesome. And with the AC on, we didn't get hot per se, but you do have have to deal with that noise, and even with the hardtop, you can hear it's pretty noisy. I expected it to be hot in here too. I didn't know how well the AC would work. It's 90 degrees outside right now, and actually, it's nice and comfortable in the Jeep. It's I guess the air pocket between the outer layer and the inner layer is enough to keep it insulated. Technology.
Vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Thank you. Technology-wise, it has more in it than I really expected, and I don't know what I was really expecting, to be honest. But it's got a touch screen with a bunch of stuff on it. The dash has several settings in it. Right now, we're showing fuel economy, which is a good segue. One thing I will say is that this thing has a little pitiful 2.0 liter 4-cylinder turbo engine in it, and that was one of the very first things I noticed, is that it has literally no guts down low. Yep, no wonder. It's a little 2 liter, so it definitely has a turbo on it, a Garrett turbo, surprisingly. And once you step on it hard, it'll get out of its way, but otherwise it kind of sucks. It needs some more torque for sure. That's the power plant. Like when you're cruising around and in a 4x4 off-road vehicle, you want it to have some power down low. This thing will not get out of its own way unless you're really on the throttle. Once you hit about 60-75% throttle, I would say, I guess the turbo finally spools up and you get past that lag, and it will pull pretty good, but you have to wring its neck to get any power out of it. And like I said, in an off-road vehicle, you really want more torque down low. And the 4Runner, of course, is supercharged, but it's a V6 to start with, so it's got a pretty good amount of down low torque. And even with bigger tires on it that I've put on it, and the supercharger and everything else, I still, if I'm not just wailing on it a lot, or hitting wide open throttle a lot, in that 20-year-old 4Runner, I'll still get 17, maybe 18 miles to the gallon if I'm on the highway a lot. Well, here we are in a 2020 Jeep Wrangler, a little pitiful 4-cylinder turbo. It's only averaging about 20 miles per gallon, so it's only getting maybe 2 more miles per gallon versus the old 20-year-old 4Runner. To put that into perspective, the Hellcat, Go Man Go, if I'm on the highway just cruising, it gets 20 miles to the gallon, and that thing makes probably somewhere in the range of 850 horsepower. So I don't see the point in putting some little anemic 4-cylinder engine in a vehicle like this when you're really not gaining anything that I can see. Put a good straight 6 or a V6 in it, maybe even a V6 with a turbo on it if you really want to get serious about it, and make it a nice peppy engine. Now, I think I read a rumor, and somebody can leave me a comment below if this is true or not. I read a rumor that they're going to make a version of this with the 392 6.4 liter V8 in it. Now, that might be something. You'll have, what, 450, 475 horsepower in a vehicle like this. You'll have the good V8 sound. That would be pretty cool, and I may go and test drive one of those if they actually do it. The other thing I'll say is this has a solid front axle, and those of you that are Jeep experts, you're well familiar with this. For those of you that are not, it means the left side and the right side front tires are connected. There's one axle that goes across. You got the differential pretty much in the middle. It's offset a little bit for the drive shaft, but it's pretty much in the middle. And so what that means is it's great for off-roading. It's probably one of the best suspensions for off-road because it can flex, and when you're pushing up on the right side, for example, it's pushing down on the left side, and both tires are getting maximum traction as a result. However, it has a side effect, and this is the first time I've driven a Jeep, and it took me a while to get used to it, but because of the crown in the road and the way the grooves in the road from all the traffic, the front tires will grab onto those, and it kind of wants to float the front end around. Geez, I can't get used to this steering. It's literally like driving a shoebox in a hurricane. And so you kind of feel like you're constantly driving. Like if I let go of the steering wheel, it's going to go one way or the other, and I'm sure it's not because of the alignment. It's because that left side's pushing up and the right side's pushing down, and it's wanting to walk around a little bit. You would think with all the noise, it's the wind blowing it around, but it's not. It's not windy today. You can see the trees aren't moving. When I first started driving it, comparing it to the 4Runner, I was like, my gosh, it's windy today, but it's just the sound coming through that roof. Obviously, it's 4-wheel drive, and you can just shift straight down into four-wheel drive. I'm not sure if there's a speed limit. I know on the 4Runner it's a push-button system to get into what I call all-wheel drive mode, and it's about something below 50 miles an hour for that. On this particular Jeep, we shifted into 4-high yesterday on the beach, probably around 20 miles an hour, and it's stiff and clunky, but it shifted right into 4-high, no problem. We didn't mess with 4-low, didn't really need that. You can see it's got a 12-volt outlet, media connections, which is nice. I had to get used to this. The window controls are here actually. You can lock out if you don't want them to be able to be rolled down. Buttons obviously for your heat and air, and as I talked about, it does have the touch screen with some stuff on that. Not a whole lot really. Just a few things if you want to control it from up here, media if you got something connected, which we don't. It does have dual climate control, which is nice, so I can set my side separate from Miss Speedy over there, who's doing a nice job filming, by the way. The problem we found is it's not really enough to keep up with the phone if you're running some kind of GPS application. So these must be 1.4 amp outlets instead of the newer 2.1 amp. I think that's right. What I can say is on the Hellcat, it'll charge the phone with the screen running no problem, and it charges it very quickly, but this can't seem to keep up, so keep that in mind too. So let's talk about price. And again, this is coming from somebody who's not, there's people who really follow these vehicles. They love their Jeeps and they drive them and own them and will have nothing else in their garage. And this really isn't meant for those people. The price is worth it for those folks, just like some things are worth it for me. Buying a Hellcat. There's a lot of people who don't need a 700 or 800 horsepower car. I think it's the greatest thing ever made. So it's worth it to me to buy that. From a Jeep person, I'll say, I like it, don't get me wrong. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it about a 6 or a 7. What would make me give it a higher score would be definitely more power under the hood, and maybe I'm rating it low because the rental place had a 4-cylinder and that's what we got. If they had a V6, I think is available, maybe I'd have a little bit different perspective and tick that number up a little bit. The other thing is the noise. That's a lot to deal with if you're going to drive it every day. Maybe you get used to it. We've had it for a couple of days, been on the highway and been just putting around town. I'm not getting used to it. It's actually giving me a headache, to be honest, the wind. And it's not a rattle, it's just a constant wind noise, so that's kind of bugging me too. So those are the things that kind of made me give it a score a little bit on the what I would call the lower side. But I do like it. It's very fun. I love that it has some options and utility. You can take the top off and make it a convertible basically, which is kind of cool. The doors come off really easy, which is another thing it's just a fun, a fun vehicle. Price-wise, the sport model I think is about 31,000 base to start. Then you get into the Sahara, which obviously has, it's got a nice interior. It's got what I believe is a leather-wrapped steering wheel, or at least appears to be leather. It may be faux leather, but it has baseball stitching in it. Comfortable to hang on to. The dash is nice with the stitching in that. It's got the technology in it, power windows, power door locks, and all that, so that's pretty cool. The Sahara is about 38,000 to start, and I don't know what options this one has. I'm going to go look them up, and I'll list the prices as this one's optioned up here in the corner. Then you get into the Rubicon, which is your off-road focused Jeep, and it comes with a lot of extra off-road items, some shielding for off-road. They named it the Rubicon obviously because it was the stock vehicle that traveled down the Rubicon, which is a very treacherous and rocky trail. It has dual lockers, front and rear, so you can lock the front and rear axles, so you literally get 4-wheel drive. I don't know if you realize this, but in a regular car that says 4-wheel drive, a lot of times it's really 2-wheel drive, to be honest. You're just getting one drive wheel in the back and one drive wheel in the front. If you're lucky enough to get a limited slip in the back, you get 3-wheel drive, sorta. So you get both drive wheels in the back and one drive wheel in the front. The reason you won't see a lot of vehicles with a locker up front like the Jeep Rubicon or a limited slip up front is because when you turn and you're turning those front wheels, remember, the inside tire makes a shorter path than the outside tire. If you were to draw circles with them, the inside tire would make a smaller circle. So it'll want to dig, and it has to, that distance has to go somewhere, and so that's why you have that differential to differentiate that distance. When you lock those two tires together, or those two axles together, nothing differentiates that distance, and you get you get barking and chattering, and it can cause some steering suspension problems and tear some stuff up if you're not careful. When you're in the dirt, that doesn't matter, because the dirt will give you that differential. We'll just slip in the dirt. So some of those things you consider if you're going to get an off-road focused vehicle. Another weird thing I will say, and I keep looking down at this dash, and out of the corner of my eye, the top of the tachometer, when you get to red line, is orange. Out of the corner of my eye, I keep thinking it's a check engine light. So I don't know if I'll would ever get used to that, or if you do after a while, but I keep seeing that out of the corner of my eye, and I keep glancing over thinking I've got a check engine light. So something else just a little bit quirky about the Jeep. I do like the orange and black, as you know, it's some of my favorite colors, but that could have been a different color or something. I don't know, maybe I'm being too picky. This little 4-cylinder, like when you pull up next to a wall or something, it almost sounds like a diesel the way it clacks along, and I'm assuming it's probably the fuel injectors that are making the clacking noise, but when you get on it, it just sounds like it's just at its light, at its limit. It just sounds like it's at its wit's end, that you're asking for any horsepower from it. Now it does make some power when you step on it good, I'll give it that, but down low it stinks. The transmission though is actually pretty good. It works well with the engine. I don't know if the transmissions are the same across the line, but it doesn't seem to hunt for gear. When it shifts, it downshifts smoothly but firmly, and it's even got a manual mode, so you can click it over to here. Now we're in manual. I can downshift a couple of gears if I need to. Let that turbo come on. Shift it up. So at least it does have that. The stereo is actually pretty good. I tried to look to see if there were any name brands on it, like Bose, Infinity, Boston Acoustic, and I don't see anything labeled on the actual speaker covers, but it actually sounds okay to me. The problem is you have to turn it up pretty loud to get over the noise, the wind noise, but it does sound good. They've got a bar right here behind the driver and passenger side with speakers in them, and I think there's some up front, some in the dash as well. So you do get a good, nice sound balance. You just have to turn it up a little bit to get over the wind noise. So now we've taken our lives into our own hands, and Miss Speedy is now driving the Jeep. So I'm curious, what do you think? How do you like it?
It's okay. I mean, I wouldn't buy it.
You don't think it's worth $40,000 or whatever?
No. No, I mean, it's great to, have a vehicle to, ride around in on the beach, but just to rent, I would never own one of these.
Oh, good to know. What'd you say we got in a minute ago when you were driving? It's a chick vehicle? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's going to offend all the guys watching this that own Jeeps, you know. Scale of 1 to 10. I said it was like a 6 to a 7. What do you think?
I'd say about the same.
About the same?
Yeah.
If it had more power, would you change the rating, or does that not matter to you?
Power? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm not a car person like you are, but yeah. I mean, it's long. I don't like it. It's just an average vehicle to me.
So there you have it. We both agree it's a 6 to a 7. I'm on the upper end of the 6, maybe a 6.8, something like that. But we both agree it's about a 7-ish based on this. Now, if this one had more power, again, I would give it a better score. One thing I will say, the suspension, other than the weird steering, is actually pretty good. It absorbs bumps and it soaks the bumps up good. I don't think I mentioned that before. So it does have a good suspension underneath it, good shocks. It's a quiet ride. The tires don't make a lot of noise other than the wind noise, but we may not hear anything else because of the wind noise. I know I keep talking about that, but if you're going to get one of these and you haven't had a Jeep before and you're going to drive it every day, you probably want to go out and spend 30 minutes or so driving in one down the highway just so you can know what you're getting into. Would I buy one? I don't know. If I found one used and had it as a second or maybe even a third vehicle, and it had the 392 V8 in it, I might consider it as a fun weekend kind of bang around utility vehicle just to go out and have some fun in. I don't know if I would get the 4-door version, which this is. It does have plenty of room in the back. There's even cup holders and stuff back there for people that might be riding back there. So if you had to have a vehicle with kids or something like that, the 4-door probably makes sense. But I personally like the shorter wheelbase of just the 2-door. So I would probably go for that, and would probably like the performance a little bit better with the, you know, removed weight and having the V8 in the up front, the 392 V8. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I hope you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedy's_garage, as well as our website, www.speedysgarage.net, and hopefully I'll see you out there.